You don't need to cook two entirely separate meals just because one person is low carb and the other isn't. Today, we're going to make a savory brisket breakfast burrito using the same base. I'm going to do a couple tweaks at the end. It's going to make a low carb version for me that'll keep my blood sugar stable, and a standard version for Ronnie that he's going to look forward to eating. Hi, I'm Tina, and I share low carb, high protein recipes on my channel that taste good. I eat this way because I have to. I have reactive hypoglycemia, and a low carb diet is the treatment. So this recipe here was inspired by Tom Walsh at Stealth Health. He's pretty famous for the way that he makes burritos, and I just changed it up a little bit to fit my needs. So we want to start off by getting the veggies in the oven, and I went ahead and preheated it to 400 degrees. But roasting the veggies is going to soften them up and cook out some of that water so that your egg mixture doesn't get watery. We're going to have a jelly roll pan is what we're going to roast them on, because later the eggs are going to go on that. So you're going to want to line it with parchment paper. Now, I read a comment on one of Tom Walsh's posts from one of his subscribers who said what she did was she sprayed the pan first and then put the liner on top of the spray to hold the liner down so that when you put the eggs on it, it doesn't get underneath and it makes a lot less of a mess. So I tried that out the last time I made them and it worked fantastic. So we're going to do that again today. I did have to cut the parchment down. I haven't found one that fits this pan yet. So we're going to go ahead and stick this on here. Okay. Now I'm going to cut the vegetables. We want about a cup each of the diced onions and diced peppers. I picked red because it's sweeter. I don't really care for the green ones, but I usually will pick red, yellow, and orange. I will tell you, I'm not going to chop these with my knife on here. I have arthritis in the hands, and now I have swapped over to this handy little chopper that works fantastic for those of you that may have hand arthritis as well, or just want an easier way to cut your vegetables. I'm trying something new with the potatoes this time, and if it works, we're going to find out together, and I will update the recipe before I post everything. So what I'm going for is a crispy potato. And what I read was, first off, you use russet potatoes. So the second thing is you cut them up into small pieces and you soak them in water for about 20 minutes and you then rinse off all of the starch. And then it's very critical that you dry them completely to get all of the moisture off of the potatoes before you stick them in the air fryer. And they're supposed to come out nice and crispy. So we're going to see if that works. The other thing I wanted to try on the potatoes I saw these at the grocery store. They're made by Reese's. They're a diced potato and they're in the refrigerated section. I'm always looking for ways to speed up my meal prep. So I thought that I would just give these a shot. I'm going to put them side by side in the air fryer and just kind of see which one turns out better. All right, let's get these veggies seasoned up. Okay. Pop these over here. So we're going to toss these in about a tablespoon of avocado oil. Got a half teaspoon of paprika, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, and then we got a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. You can add some salt if you like. Not a big salt family here. All right. Overboard. Okay, we're going to pop these in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes until they've had a chance to soften up. Now for the potatoes, we're going to cook those in the air fryer, and they're going to go in at 400 degrees. But because we're running an experiment on 2 different types of potatoes, we're going to work with the timing a little bit here. So typically on the russet potato side, a regular, normal raw potato, it's going to be about a 20-minute cook time, maybe a little bit longer if you want them crispier, and we're not sure how crispy they're going to turn out, so we'll see. And on the Reese's, the direction says 10 minutes in the air fryer. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pop them in for 10 minutes, check them, probably take out the Reese's, and then put the regular russet potatoes back in for another 10 after we give them a good shake. All right, let's season them up first. Now we got the avocado oil, which calls for a tablespoon. I'm going to use a little bit less because the last time I set off the smoke detector. So I'm just going to kind of coat each side just a little bit here. Now, the recipe, what we do is we're going to have a half teaspoon of paprika. But again, I want to split that between the two types of potatoes. You're probably only going to be cooking one type of potato, so just cover the whole thing. Then we've got the half teaspoon of garlic powder that we're going to split between the two. And then a quarter teaspoon of pepper. A quarter teaspoon of onion powder on this one. And because they're potatoes, and I know I just said I'm not a salt person, we're going to put a little bit of salt on the potatoes. Because I think potatoes need salt. All right, we're going to give these each a good toss, keeping them separate. All right. Let's get these in the microwave, or in the air fryer. While those potatoes are frying up, let's get the egg mixture ready. We're going to start with 1 3/4 cups of egg whites. And then we're going to add 4 whole eggs. There we go. Followed by 1 3/4 cup of cottage cheese. So when Ronnie and I's son went off to college and we became empty nesters, we came up with a new tradition where we would find different breakfast spots every Saturday and we'd try them out all over town. We'd even take short drives within a couple of hours to find different little nooks and crannies of places. And we always judged them on their burrito and their corned beef hash because we both love both so much. Although I can't eat either anymore and I have to live vicariously through him. So it just kind of made me up my game on my at-home breakfast. All right, so we're going to follow this up by 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And what this is going to do is set the egg mixture when we cook it to where you can easily slice it into the 10 equal slices. So that's what the cornstarch is going to do for us. And then we have a half teaspoon of paprika, a quarter teaspoon of garlic, and I didn't get all that paprika in there, and a quarter teaspoon of pepper. There we go. We're going to mix this up and I'll be right back. So now we're going to get this egg base all set up and into the oven. We're going to start with the 12 ounces of chopped brisket. And we're just going to spread that across the pan. I left a couple pieces out over here in case Belle graces us with her presence because she is my official taste tester. So we'll spread these out here. Okay. Now, oops, there's a few pieces left. We're going to follow that up with a cup of black beans. Now, I know that there's a lot of keto folks out there that probably don't eat beans, and you can leave these out. Even with the beans in on the low carb version, we're still only sitting at 10 grams per burrito. Plus, beans have a lot of fiber in them, and that helps stabilize my blood sugar. It doesn't spike it, so they work very well for me. So we're just going to spread these out here. We're going to spread them out a little bit better than that. Okay. Okay, just real quick. Who else still has Tupperware? I got gifted this 38 years ago from my mom when I got married, and I still have Tupperware that I use today. I can't believe that this stuff lasts so long. Plastics forever, right? Okay. So now we're going to take the egg base that we whipped up, and we're going to carefully pour it over the pan. We're just going to go back and forth, just ensuring we don't go over the edge and that we get all of the vegetables and meat covered with egg. Okay. Grab my spatula. Actually, I'll just use the fork. We're going to spread this out just a little bit. I got a clump over here. Now we're going to top this off with a cup of shredded cheese. I chose a Mexican shredded cheese because I like the different types of cheeses in mine. You can use whatever you like the best. Okay. I load all of my recipes in MyFitnessPal, so you can find this one under She Preps Smart Brisket Breakfast Burrito. I also will be dropping the printable down in the comments so that you don't have to worry about writing any of this down. All the tips and tricks, anything that I mentioned and called out during the making of this recipe is also in the instructions. And I also created a macro form that's going to break down both the low carb and the regular versions of the burritos. So you'll have all of that available to you. Okay. We are going to stick this in the oven at 350 for about 22 to 30 minutes. You're looking for the eggs to just set and to get a little golden brown around the edges. Now that the eggs have cooled for 10 minutes, we can go ahead and slice them up. What I did do while the oven was cooling down is I stuck the tortillas in there to warm them up a bit. Just makes it easier for the assembly process so that the tortillas don't crack. So we'll go ahead and just cut them down the middle horizontally. And then we'll do 4 slices vertically across so that we have 10 equal pieces. Okay. So then we just take our piece of egg, stick it in the middle of the burrito. Now this is the carb version of the burrito, so we're going to add some potatoes to this one. Now you'll notice the potatoes are crispier with the water bath. This is the left side, so this is the russet potatoes. I just don't know that they're so much more crispier that it was worth the extra time and effort that it took for them to soak. I would just leave that up to you. I'll go ahead and add it to the recipe for those of you that want to do that. But I don't know that it was really worth the time. Okay, so we're just going to put some potatoes up here on top. And then you fold over the sides and kind of roll it around. So when we cook these on the pan, we will seal the seam shut so that we don't have to worry about them falling apart. So we'll go ahead and just wrap up the rest of the. I will call out while I'm doing this that you're going to want to make sure that you get the extra large burritos. I bought I believe it was the fajita size one time, and they were too small. So you have to get the burrito ones that are the extra large for it to fit and fold properly without having your stuffing falling out the ends. Here are the reesers. They're a little crispy. I will say that I actually had to cook both of them for about 24 minutes in order to get to this level of crispiness. So even though the reesers were they're pre-cooked, or they're not totally cooked, they're partially cooked, they didn't cook any faster in the air fryer. Go figure. So now we're gonna move on to the low carb version. And I use the Hero tortillas for these. I don't know if you've ever used the Hero brand, but they're actually very, very good. So good that I have a lot of their products on subscription. I'm not sponsored by them, but I do really like the Hero brand. If you haven't checked them out, you might want to give them a try. Since I'm not sponsored, I don't have any discount codes, but because I'm a customer, I have my personal referral code that I'll put down in there. I think it gives you $25 off or 25%. But anyway, I'll drop it down in the description just in case you want to give it a go. And no potatoes for me. Now, these are slightly smaller than the burrito size, but they still wrap nicely. Once we seal that up, the seam, it'll be good to go. All right, let me get the fry pan up and I'll show you how we seal those seams. Now that I've got the pan all set up and preheated and ready to go, we're gonna start sealing the burritos. So we'll spray a light spray in the pan, and then we'll put the burrito in seam side down, so that way it seals it up. We're going to let that cook for 1 to 2 minutes, and then we'll flip it over and do the other side. This is going to give it a really nice golden brown color, a little bit of a crispy crunch to the bite. It absolutely makes the burrito, so don't skip this step. While those are cooking, let's talk about storage. So you're going to want to wrap these in a parchment paper. I use this freezer paper. I buy it on at the grocery store. I think I got this one. They also have freezer tape so that you can tape them up. But you can write right on here what's inside the package. And once you've wrapped them up in the paper and taped them up tightly, then you're going to want to put them in a Ziploc bag or airtight container to seal it up really good. You could store them in the refrigerator for 3 to 4 days that way. And in the freezer, you can store them up to 3 months, I believe, as long as you have them wrapped and sealed within that Ziploc bag. All right, let's check on this and see what it looks like. Oh, yeah. It's pretty and golden brown. So we'll let this one finish cooking, and then we'll do the next one. We'll do a no carb version so that we can see the difference in what they look like, and then we'll cut them open and take a taste test. All right, time for the moment of truth. We'll cut them open, check them out, see what they look like, and we'll taste the low carb version. Unfortunately, I cannot taste the carb version, but we will cut it open and take a look. Oh, but you'll look into this burrito. So we've got some brisket there, egg, some pepper, and the potatoes, nice golden brown. It turned out pretty good. All right, so now we're going to cut into the low carb version. Oh yeah, see, now we've got some black beans and egg and cheese and that nice smoky brisket. Let's take a bite. First thing I tasted was the pepper, and I think that was just because of where I bit, but I've got the smokiness from the brisket, the creaminess from the egg and cheese. I love the crispiness on this tortilla. The black beans give it a nice heartiness that I really like. This is really good. There you go. Good girl. If you're low carb and you're cooking for somebody who isn't, you don't have to cook 2 meals. You can just make a few small adjustments and then you have a meal you both can eat. So if you enjoyed this recipe, I'll put a playlist up here with some additional breakfast recipes that I have available at this time. If you find one that you like, I hope you consider subscribing to my channel. I post a new recipe every Thursday evening. Thank you for watching my video.